gives me feelings I don't understand. Combing your hair with your hand gives me feelings I don't understand. You do this thing when you're biting your lip, it's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself. I don't wanna live in a world without you. You do this thing when you're biting your lip, it's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself. I don't wanna live in a world without you. Without you, driving me crazy just looking at it. Without you, driving me crazy just looking at it. You do this thing when you bite me lip. Without you, driving me crazy just looking at it. Combing your hair with your hand gives me feelings I don't understand. Combing your hair with your hand gives me feelings I don't understand. You do this thing when you're biting your lip, it's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself. I don't wanna live in a world without you. You do this thing when I'm talking to you, like everything freezes and it's just you. You do this thing when I'm talking to you, like everything freezes and it's just you. You do this thing when you're biting your lip, it's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself. I don't wanna live in a world without you. Give it to me like without you. Driving me crazy just looking at it. Without you. Driving me crazy just looking at it. You do this thing when you bite me lip. Without you, driving me crazy just looking at it. Driving me crazy just looking at it. You do this thing when you're biting your lip, it's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself, but don't wanna live without you.
Morning, everyone. Hope everyone is good. Yep, random morning show doing. I don't know. I just got up at 7:30, had a coffee. Do you know what? I'll just do a show for the fun of it, sort of thing, because I need to get more in, a bit more regular. So, with the question I'm asking there, I mean, it's a question a lot of people. I don't really think it's a question a lot of people are asking. I mean, I think we've all pretty made our decision on it. The Europa Cup. Can we actually win it? Really? Is there a chance that Ange is going to pull this off? And if we do, I think my main question is, what do we do then? If we was to actually go and do that, what do we then do with Ange? What happens to him? What would be the right thing to do? What would be the moral thing to do? What would be the professional thing to do? I think that's one where a few people do cross on. I mean, I would definitely say it's the majority on the other side that we kick him out. And I can totally understand. I mean, I want the fella out as soon as possible. Can't stand his football, can't stand his style of play. Don't think he's got a link with the players. The list goes on and on and on. I mean, everybody knows it by now. But it's just that question. And it was more to just ask whoever comes on the chat. And I know there's probably not going to be there that many this morning because, like I say, it didn't exactly give people much of a warning. At the minute, it is only 9:30. But what do we actually do with this fella if we win this Europa Cup? Now, I've got my opinion on it, and it turns out that it is different to quite a few other people's opinions on it. And a few people was quite shocked when they heard my side of it. And there's been one or two others that have give their opinion on it as well, that a few people have been shocked on. I mean, can I put up with this crap? Can I put up with this football? Can I put up with this style of play and Spurs for another 6 months? for another half a season. For another season even. Like whole season instead of half a season. I feel really drained even just watching a Spurs game. I don't feel excited to get up and watch the game. I mean, excited, maybe that's the wrong word. I haven't really been excited about watching Spurs play for about 4 years. But we're still looking forward to it. Still used to get hyped up when we'd score a goal. And still feel like throwing the beer at the bloody wall when we concede at the last minute. Not that I do that, call it a figure of speech. But, you know what I mean. You get the feeling to do it as such. I mean, wouldn't this be the most screwed up and most Spursy thing ever? Well, no, losing the final would be the Spursy thing. But if we get to that final and then we go and win it and get in the Champions League and finish, let's say, between 14th and 16th, that's an achievement. I must admit, it makes me laugh thinking of it. And then there'd be a few other points on it as well. I'll get to them in a minute. So, just going to say hello to a couple of people. I was having a bit of coffee. It's only my second one this morning, but that counts for about 3 or 4 of that cup. And I need my coffee. That's my addiction. I don't deny it. But anyway. And Jimmy Hotspur, big up everyone. Big up to you too, mate. Hope everything's good. And Tony, big up Dan in the chat. Ange, yeah, I'm with you, mate. And Tony, always on here. Good to see you, mate. And David R, morning all. Morning to you, mate. Hope everything's good. There's me just telling everyone I was running 10 minutes late. A few people will see why. And Sue Smith, morning Dan in the chat. Morning to you. And Sue also saying, Ange out. Yep, I totally agree. Big up to you. And Mark the Sheriff, big up. Good morning, Dan. Big up to you too. Phil Coyes, you tried, mate. Big up to you, Dan. I tried. I did try it. I do try it. I mean, Phil knows what I'm on about. Genuinely, I wasn't taking the piss. I really wasn't. I really do want to, but he knows what I'm on about, and a few others might do as well. But you can only try it. If you don't try, where'd you get? If you don't try, you don't get nothing. But big up to you, mate. And Jimmy Hotspur, how on earth is this manager? Let me start again. Sorry. How on earth is this manager the worst in Spurs history still at the job? Absolutely beggars belief. I mean, Jimmy, I'm with you on that one. He should have been gone a long time ago. Even at the facts that they kept him for the cups, okay. Not that I agreed with it. I wanted him out, but the fact that they kept him for the cups and then he crashed out of both of them like he did. And then there's still one more cup to go. I mean, some say, like, the attitude I've got, the league is done and dusted for me. It is done and dusted. I see the best us doing in the league is 12th, and they're still relying on other teams to do terrible. So with that, I must admit the league is pretty irrelevant to me. I mean, I still think we should obviously be in there trying to win every game. But when there's a 4-day, well, with what we just done with like a 19 or 20 day or 25 day something gap it is between the next game and the Europa game sort of thing, this game and the Europa game, I can't understand why he didn't put a full team out there. Why did he not put the full team out there? I really don't know. But now, if it was a game today and in 4 days' time we got a Europa game, then I would leave out, I wouldn't make a change of 7 players, but I'd definitely leave out some of my key players. Because that Europa is the only thing we have a chance of doing on this season. Do I think we will win it? No, I don't. I really don't. But no one can tell me or anyone else for a fact that we won't win it. You can just put a good bet on like a 99.9% chance we won't. But still, if you want to go by facts, anything is possible. And that is where I will go to in a minute. And Lee, big up Dan, hope you're well. Big up to you too, mate. And Lee, if Ange somehow wins the cup, would you back him then? That is what I'm going to get to, mate. That is the point that I'm going to get to. And David R, just remember, you're not allowed to criticise players performing badly despite being paid to perform well as that is inhumane. Be positive despite the negative football you see every week. I totally agree, mate. It seems like a lot of the players and a lot of other supporters and a lot of other ways seem to think that it's all you're allowed to do is blow sunshine up their ass. And then when they're doing bad, you're meant to put your arm around them and just say, come on, boys, we can do better, whatever. Now, okay, if that's 1 or 2 games we do that for, I get that one. But when you've had a consistent season of 15 defeats in the league and round about, 18, 19 defeats altogether, that is when you start questioning them. And that is when I feel the team deserves a bit of stick. And you got to tell them about themselves. I mean, if they want all the good, there's 2 sides to everything. If there's positive, there's negative. If there's love, there's hate. Whatever way you want to do it, there is always the opposite to it. And if they're gonna get told well done and all the praise for playing good, then they need to be told about themselves when they're consistently playing bad, and when the manager is consistently not doing his job as a manager, which I think a lot of us could agree that Ange isn't quite doing his job, is he? And Lynn, morning Dan, morning to you too. And Jimmy, what are you saying here, mate? Don't worry, Dan, we won't be winning the Europa. He's going to get schooled over 2 legs. I mean, I definitely see that happening as well. I mean, Eintracht Frankfurt, they're not doing well at the moment. Their past 2 months have been pretty bad. But again, you can see if you've watched them play a couple of times. I've only seen them play once this season. And only looked at a couple of things on there because I know we're playing. And they definitely look like they can score a few goals. And we can score when it's needed, but at the moment, we just don't even be seen to doing that too well. And the whole team, to me, just looks a total mess at the minute. Looks like there's no plan to the situation. The players look lost on there. When we're not playing players like Madison, who is actually meant to be the playmaker, when we didn't even start with Bergvall, who I don't even class as a playmaker as such, but he's probably the next best thing we've got to that if Kulusevski's not about. That's what I mean. Some of these tactics, some of these styles, I just don't get it. I mean, and Eintracht Frankfurt, what is it? Is it first game at home, second game away, if I remember correctly? Someone do tell me if I'm wrong. And if it is that way, that's not the way you want it to be, is it? And can we get past them? I think we can. And then I think it's the next round we need to really worry. But even getting past this round, if we do that, it's an achievement. No 2 ways about it. And the Boomverse, big up Dan and all. that fraud and Europe win, reality, no. By some universal aligned miracle, cool, and by yeah. It would be a miracle if we managed to do that. And Lee saying, Ange out, Enoch out. Yep, I totally agree. And Mark, morning Dan the man, legend. Morning to you too, mate. Thanks. And who's this? Trust me, bro. It's Bryce. Fair enough. Random name. Big up Dan. Big up to you too, mate. And Lynn also saying here, I think you have to say, is it wrong having another season like this for the Europa Cup? Because the chances of winning a cup game is easier than winning the league. Exactly. And I agree with that. You can actually win a cup with the majority of it being luck. With Ange's style, you can actually win a cup. We can win games. It's just where he doesn't adapt for other games that he should do. But a cup usually comes over a matter of 6 matches, 7. The Europa, obviously, a few more. But over 38 games over a season, this style of play, you're not winning nothing. But again, in a cup, you can win that with luck on your side. I mean, how the hell have England got to finals and that with how we played the last time? We got there through luck and maybe won a good game. And trust me, bro, he's saying, wouldn't bother the guys at Unhinged, mate. I know what you're talking about. Fair enough. Yeah, either way, it was just being nice. Question, do you consider yourself to be an Oak man? No, I don't. If I'm reading that right. And Sheriff, get Poch back. He's throwing games for USA to get sacked. You know, this is one thing I do think. People say Poch back. No, I don't think it would be going backwards, wouldn't it? And I think a lot of us just hoping. I think a lot of us would just be hoping things would fall back into place there. Would he do a better job than Ange? Of course he bloody would. I think Ryan Mason would do a better job than Ange. I do think he is that much of a poor manager. But for me, I said this a while back. If Ange goes and gets sacked, there's going to be a lot of us happy, but there's also going to be a lot of people who are very much loving of this manager for whatever the reason be, that are going to be extremely pissed off. So Levy's going to have his usual side very pissed off with him, and then he's going to have a fresh bunch extremely pissed off with him as well. His only way out of this, where he would win a lot of fans back, is if by somehow he managed to get Poch back in there. And then all of a sudden you're seeing Poch on TV saying Spurs have got a place in his heart and he would still love to come back here. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked if it happened. Not shocked as I think some would. Because I think this is something that Levy might be hanging on to as a saviour for him. Like basically when everyone was turning and then all of a sudden he brought Conte. Shut a lot of people up. And I think Poch might be his only way of winning back some of the fan base that he's going to lose, which he wouldn't usually lose, is by bringing Poch back. Because so many people would be over the moon with it. Then you'd have our usual lot who are just, it doesn't matter who the manager is, Levy's got to go. We all know he is the cancer of this club. And no, people don't like the phrase and that, but it is what it is as far as I'm concerned. That is what he is. He eats the club inside out and destroys everything about us, doesn't care about the football, but we all know that crap. But I just really wouldn't be shocked if he did bring Poch back. I really wouldn't, because that would be his saviour, in my opinion. That would actually be the only thing out there he could really do to save it. And Lynn, answering Jimmy's question, is that Ange has been Levy's fall guy and taken away the pressure from Levy. And as experienced manager, he couldn't hide behind them. You're right on what you're saying there. I mean, the way Ange has definitely said a few things and done a few things, he has definitely covered Levy's arse all the way, basically, hasn't he? Some of it was intentional on what he was told to say, I think. But then the problem is with the fella, he's gone and said a hell of a lot of stuff that he did not need to say. That is what has really done him up, good and proper. When he goes into his mad chats and then takes it so much further and then contradicts himself all the time, the man's done himself no favours, has he? Ange has really done himself no favours with that. And again, he's brought a lot of it on himself. There's so many ways that he could have done things a bit different. I mean, it's like other people have mentioned, like when he said, let the fans enjoy the football. Let the fans decide whether we're doing it the right way, the wrong way, or whatever. Well, a lot of the fans have decided. And Mr. Ange Postecoglou doesn't seem to like it. But then he was the one telling everyone that it's up to the fans. The other mistake he made was when he got, I wouldn't even say it was the question. It was basically a statement put to him of, you always win in your second season. The way he answered that was, yes, I do. I always win in my second season. Well, it's not a lie. He always has. But you don't go and make a statement like that at a club like Spurs, who are that bloodthirsty for a trophy, that bloodthirsty for a bit of silver. He should have just replied, so far, yeah. But now people holding him up on what he said, because it basically was a clear statement he made. And a lot of people took it, me included, as like, well, you always do. You're that sure of it. And then when he also says things like, we don't want to be fighting for fourth place. We want to compete. We want to be competing and stuff like that. And we're stuck in what, 40? Is it 14th or 15th we're in? I think it's 14th. joint. Yeah, I think it's 14th, joint 16th. Didn't check the league this morning. And with all those comments he's made, they've all come and bit him back in the arse, to say the least. And you can tell the man's definitely struggling with it. And Lynn's saying, Ange shows no passion or spirit on the touchline. He looks disinterested. So what confidence does that give the players? I do agree on that, but a lot of people on here will know my opinion with Ange. And I stick with my opinion with it. I'm not going to go into it because I know some people get touchy about things, whatever. But I've seen enough of things myself, got things myself and whatever to have an opinion with it. And I don't think the man's stupid. I don't think he's as arrogant as people think. I don't think he's as means to be as rude as people think. And on the sideline, I think to an extent he's a bit spiritless, like you say, because of what I believe. But he's just so set in his way, he can't do it any other way. He can't do it. I don't think so. Even if he had to, I just don't think he can do it. He's just that set in his way. And he does come across quite rude at times. He does come across quite arrogant. And yeah, do you want a manager on the side who's running up and down the line like Arteta? No, I can't say I do. But do you want a manager on the side who's giving a bit of screaming, a bit of shouting, a bit of passion? Like Iriola and Silva does. Like Inzaghi does Inter Milan. That would be the manager I would like, Inzaghi. But that's just not going to happen. Do we want one screaming as loud as Conte? Yeah, I wouldn't say no to that either. But running up and down the line, just like Arteta does, is just too much for me on that one. But I've got my reasons for why I think Ange is, but it's no excuse. It's a reason, in my opinion. And I think he still has to go. He's just not good enough. Not just for Spurs. I just don't think he's good enough for a Premier League manager. And Sam Smith, now big up Dan. I saw Hippie being hostile towards you in his stream. Don't know how you kept your cool. Mate, don't have to say nothing about him. Don't worry about it. We all know what's what. That's all I was asking is if you wanted to chat and to ever do a show. And here I am. That's all it was asking. But leave it on that with him. People are what they are at the end of the day. And George, big up to you too. Spurs rule, you can't win the cup without a decent defence. Yeah, you can. I disagree on that one. You can't win a league without a decent defence. I mean, the old saying goes, what is it? Goals win games. A good defence wins you a league. And that is very true. And I have not seen a team win the English Premier League yet without a solid defence and a solid goalkeeper. Well, a goalkeeper who was at least solid at the time. Maybe once we can say wasn't an extremely good keeper. And 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, they've always had a solid DM with it as well. Another thing we don't have. Another thing we don't even play with, basically. Which is another thing that I think if we used would sort out a couple of problems. And stop using those fucking inverted wing backs, which really does do made in. But you can win a cup without a decent defence. You can win a cup with a bang average team. The chances of it happening is highly unlikely. But you can do it because a cup is only usually over 6 games, 7 games, whatever, whereas the league is 38 games. And that's where you definitely get caught out. And the Mighty Cockerel, hey Danny, big up to you too. And the Mighty Cockerel again, agree, Poch being back is so Spursy. Also, would you like Allegrini of Juventus? I would love it. Yes, it's another manager I wouldn't say no to. I know a lot of people wouldn't like an Italian manager in like Conte, that sort of style. Everyone's got their own style of what they like to play. I like counter-attacking football. I like the way Italy plays. Yes, it's a little bit slower. Yes, it's a lot more defensive. But I personally prefer that way with playing 3 at the back, sometimes 5 at the back when it comes back on the wing backs needing to come back. and a defence that's able to take the beating in defence and then 3-4 direct balls straight up there, score a goal quick as. That is how I personally like seeing the football. Some people prefer tip-tap, this and that and everything. Other people just prefer out-and-out flair, which you just don't get in football anymore. If I had a choice, I'd go back to that way of which it was in anything from the 95 to 2000 is when you actually saw players with a bit of flair. These days, it has dried out a lot for me. But he's a manager I would love to see at Spurs, same as I would love to see Inzaghi at Spurs. And with the style they play and the players we got, I've been saying it for well over 13, 14 months now, it would just suit this team so much better. And Spurs rule, Poch would at least lift fans' mood for 2 years. That is what I'm saying. I do think there's something going on here, possibly. And again, like I said, it is purely down. It is the one thing that Levy would be able to do because Poch has basically put it on the plate for him. It is the one thing he would be able to do where a majority of fans, high majority of fans, even the ones that are Levy out at the moment, some of them would keep quiet and would be very happy with it. I mean, I don't care who we have as manager in the aspect of you could put the best manager on the planet there. I'm Levy out. I want the man gone. He is the main problem at the club. But it would shut a lot of people up. And if I'm going to be honest, would it put a smile on my face? Yeah, because Ange would be gone. I don't agree on going back on things. It's like having a relationship. It didn't work. And then 2 years later, you go back again hoping things have changed. But he wouldn't be doing a worse job than Ange, would he? No, I don't think so. I don't even think Ryan Mason would do a worse job. So, yeah, I would accept Pochettino back all day long, considering the situation. But I think we would be getting him back for the wrong reasons. But I do think it is the one thing that would save Levy's ass. So surely he knows this as well. And it's on his cards. Only time will tell. And George, the whole Poch back thing is purely based on emotion. He's not a top coach, and he's proved that in every job since he was sacked. You see, I disagree there. I think he's a very good coach. Definitely better coaching players individually than Ange's. And he's better than Ange in every way. And look how Chelsea actually started to see it. They was doing really poor at the start of the season with Poch. And then he started getting them rolling, basically, towards the end of the season. And then he got the sack. Fine. But in that aspect, we are Tottenham Hotspur. Who do you really expect? Seriously, who do you really expect would come to Spurs? Why do you think people are looking at Iriola, Silva, things like that? I mean, I wouldn't say no to Nagelsmann either. From what I see of him, he's a good coach. And I would like a younger coach. When I say a younger coach, I mean anything up like young age, like Nagelsmann or someone in their 40s, mid-40s, who can still adapt to the football, who can still learn to how the football is changing, who can adapt to games, who can coach the players. Whereas Ange just doesn't seem capable of any of it. And Poch is a good coach. And while Levy is here, what do you really expect? Do you expect us to be going out there and challenging for titles? Really? It's highly unlikely it happens. But at least when you've got a manager like Poch, you will see better football, in my opinion, and you will see a better drill team. You will see better defence. And, yeah, you will see Tottenham play better football. So I would quite happily take Poch back. But I do agree with what you're saying as well in the emotion thing. I think for a lot of people, it is a bit of emotion because of how good it was under Poch. But then it's basically like what you're saying. We still won nothing, did we? And we had chances. It's not as though he didn't have chances. We did have chances. And we can't just use the bad luck thing all the time. Yes, in the Champions League final, for me, that weren't even a handball. But he should never have started Kane. And he made some bad decisions. And he had chances. But I would still take him back purely over the fact that I do just want Ange out. And Aussie Ange hater, big up Dan, big up to you. Spurs, well, Poch is top coach, but needs younger players who will follow his methods. Well, we do seem to have a younger team overall, don't we? This is what a few people have said. Where we do have some younger players in there, he would be very good for progressing some of the younger players that we've got, because we do actually have some younger players in that team. And he would definitely suit them better than Ange does. And Ozzy saying, Geese must be early for you. Well, it is early coming off. I don't usually do my shows until 10, 11 sort of thing, or midday, whatever. But it was only, 25 past 9 in the morning when I came on, so it's not that early. And Spurs rule, Ange's not a good coach, let alone a coach, exactly. But and the mighty cockerel, hey, let's bring back a manager who couldn't win anything over 5 years with a phenomenal squad to inherit. Yeah, a depleted squad. I agree. But we are at that point of who would you rather have? Would you rather have Poch or would you have bloody Ange? That is basically, I think, where everyone is a lot of us are clutching at straws. But again, he didn't have a phenomenal squad. He had an extremely good first 11. He didn't have the best subs bench out there at all. Squad-wise, we were too weak. That was our main problem. We only needed another, I'd say another 2 good players for that squad as a whole, for the cover, for injuries, whatever, or maybe even someone to get in that first team, just to give us something to fall back on. That was the problem. Whenever we had an injury or whatever, there was nothing really he could fall back on. Squad-wise, we weren't strong enough. That was the problem. But our first 11, probably the best I've seen at Spurs. No problem about it. It is the best I've seen at Spurs. Yes, I've seen better individual players, but squad-wise, first 11-wise, no, I haven't. And I have a guest on here at the moment, but can you put your camera on? There we go. And how we doing, Mike?
Yeah, big up, man. I have some housekeeping to do, but I thought I would join you. I will just have the camera off for like 15 minutes and I will sit at the PC, okay? But I can talk with you just with the camera off. I'm doing laundry, so...
I was about to say, what you're doing, your housework. That's why I didn't see the picture on the bottom, because it was black on a black page as such. Yeah. So what I'll ask you quickly then is the point I'm getting to on here, basically, is... if Ange goes and wins this Europa Cup, we're pretty sure it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But no one can say for a fact it won't happen. Not yet, anyway. But we can 99% say it won't. If we do win that Europa Cup, what do we do with Ange? What do we do with him? Now,
you know what? As much as I wouldn't like to see it, you have to give him another, at least the start of the next season, right? Like, even purely from like PR point of view, if the club sacked him immediately after winning us our first trophy in 17 years, like it would kill them, right? If the PR of the club is bad right now, think what would happen if they sacked him after winning the Europa League, right? So I think if he wins it, which same as you, I don't think he will, right? But if he won it, then you can't sack him, right? You have to give him another season. Listen, then he can only sack himself, basically, right? If he keeps performing this way in the league, then the Levy will pull the trigger in the next season, right? But in the summer, no way. If he wins the Europa League, no way he gets sacked.
You know what? With saying that, that's probably going to shock a lot of people. The same as Stel said it the other night, and I stuck up for him. I'd be the same. I mean, it's for me, it's about being fair. I try to be fair in things, not biased, not this, not that. I try. We all fuck up sometimes with it. But my attitude is when you're good, you're good. You're bad, you're bad. When credit is due, you give credit. When it's time to get a grilling, you take your grilling, which a lot of people don't seem to like us doing that with Ange or the players. But if he goes and wins that Euro, because it's just getting slated all the time, and so are the players, because we've been so shit for 18 months now, basically. and things won't change. So, of course, they ain't going to get sunshine blown up their arse. Not by everyone, anyway. But on the fair side of things, if Ange goes and wins this Europa Cup, he's gone and done what hasn't been done at Spurs for what? How long is it now?
17 years, right?
17 years, 16, 17, yeah, about 17 now.
17 for a trophy and 40 years for Europa League, right?
Yeah, and
Over
if he goes
40.
and wins that, I have to stick by what I said at the start of the season, basically. Like, he can go, I don't really care. And then lost it with him after about another 5 games and just totally Ange out from there. But I have said that I would accept finishing 15th in the league if we get a trophy out of it. And people say that's bad, that's a loser's attitude. No, I am just that desperate for some silverware at Spurs that I would take that. Would I take this bullshit football and everything for another 6 to 12 months to win the Europa Cup? Yeah, I would. If he goes and wins it, then you've got to give the man credit where it's due, even if it's pure luck. And I've already seen a lot of people saying that, no, it'd be because the players had a good game, nothing to do with him and this and that. So, right, if we go and win a cup and it's down to the players having a good game and everything, then we can't turn around and grill Ange for all the games we lose either, can we?
Yeah, or then the Ange Inner's argument of it's the player's fault gets married, right? Because, like, yeah, basically, I echo everything you said, right? I always say that I praise when praise is deserved and I criticize where criticism is deserved, right? And if he wins us not only like a cup, right? It's the Europa League. It's something bigger than, for me, Europa League is bigger than FA Cup, right? Yeah, taking into consideration,
These days, yes, it is.
Yeah.
These days
also taking into consideration, I'm not English, right? So for me, FA Cup doesn't have the same value as for you guys who've been watching this throughout your whole life, right? So the way I look at it, Europa League is something like something grand, something big, right? Like imagine even if we finished 15th and we won Europa League, right? And I know it sounds silly, right? But just for banter's sake, Arsenal doesn't win anything. The whole next season we can sing Champions of Europe. You will never sing that, right? To them. Just purely based on that, I would love to see it, right? I know it's silly. I know it's a bit childish, right?
No,
but you get my point, right?
Totally. And you know what? Like I said, it would be the most Spursy thing ever to happen. I mean, obviously losing the final, but us finish like between 12 and 16. Let's just say 15th for the sake of the situation. And then we go and win the fucking Europa Cup and get in the Champions League. And do you know why the other reason that I would love that so much? Is because we could then go and do a Man U on Arsenal basically and turn around and say we had a better fucking season than you. As long as they don't win the Champions League. Which
of course. Of course, that's right.
But you would literally be able to say that and they could grill us how hard they wanted for everything like they did with Man U. But at the end of the day, we'd have a bit of silverware on the table and they'd have finished 2nd or 3rd again, which I'm not saying is bad. But at the end of the day, they've still got nothing to show for it. And I personally think that would hurt them. And I mean hurt them bad.
Yeah.
Now, if we won the League Cup or FA Cup or whatever, we could still say we won something that season. But Arsenal could just turn around and say, well, we've got the best FA Cup anyway. The best FA Cup thing anyway.
Yeah.
But Arsenal's record in Europe is what totally destroys them, basically, as a club. Why they can't stand up there with the big boys like Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, Man U, Dortmund, Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Juventus, AC Milan. The list goes on and on and on. Out of all the big clubs, massive clubs, they are the ones who have not won it, and they still actually have a worse European record than us, don't they? And I think that would absolutely destroy their fan base, us finishing 15th and then winning the Europa Cup.
Man, all I have to say, that Ligue 1 stream, if we won the Europa League final, would be fucking legendary, right?
Oh, mate, I'd be on there. I'd be on there. I mean, I watch a bit of his stuff. I like him. He's to the point and he says it how he feels it.
Yeah.
Whether the others agree with him or not. He seems like an all right fella and I like the way he does his shows as well. I've got the same sort of attitude as if you like me, fair play. If you don't, I
fuck off,
less. Yeah, and that's the same way I am really in that aspect. But so if we did win that Europa Cup, I would be the same, basically, in the aspect of then you've got to really give him the next season.
Yeah.
And that's just out of being fair. Other people saying they wouldn't go through this crap again, you'd really go through this shit another season. That would I want to? No. But would I do it for a Europa Cup? Sure, I would. Yes, I would. And do you know what? I'd still have a smile on me for the rest of the season if we end up finishing 15th again, because I'd still be seeing how pissed off those Arsenal fans.
No, but the way I look at it, right? For me, the glory and happiness you would get from winning that Europa League, right? For me, outweighs the pain and suffering I had to go through this season, right? And also the way I look at it, right? If I don't think winning the Europa League makes Ange a good manager and makes Ange a good manager for this league, right? So the way I see it is, if he didn't change, right? And let's be honest, winning the Europa League would make him even like more firm on his tactics, right? And on his approach. Then he probably just sacks himself in next season because the results won't get better, right? And Levy won't stand for another season in the gutters, right? That's how I look at it. I think the benefit of winning the Europa League outweighs the suffering, right? Although
I do.
Although
it would.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I mean, it's like what you're saying there. I mean, the reason I'd say, yeah, give him another season, no problem, is we'll probably do the same shit and it'd be gone within 3 months, hopefully. Because I reckon it'd just get himself the sack anyway, quite possibly, if we next season was playing as poor as we are this season. But then if he had that Europa Cup to fall back on, Levy could say he's keeping for whatever. Do you know what? If I have to keep him for next season and we finish 12th again, even without a cup, I would still do that to win this Europa Cup. I would.
Yeah.
I mean, if we was a massive club like Chelsea have been, like other countries have been, like Real Madrid would be, and he wins the Europa Cup and we still say that's not good enough, we should have done better in the league and sack him, I would love to be that sort of club. But we're not. Yeah. And I don't think we've got the right to even talk as that sort of club. Yes, we should be in the top 6. Is this team a top 4? I don't quite think so, but it could fight for it, play it the right way. But I think it's a top 6 club. Better manager gets us in that top 6. But again, as all Spurs ever have been, what a lot of people don't seem to remember is, as all we ever have been is a cup club anyway.
Yeah.
We've never been a league club. And yeah. Like it or lump it.
I will drop out for a second and sit in front of the PC and log in. So just bring me in,
okay, mate,
like
no
30
problem.
seconds, okay?
Cool.
Right back.
And for me, it's just one of those things on a like it or lump it. We are a cup club. That is all we ever have been. I mean, we've won the league, what, twice or whatever it is? And how many years ago is that now that we actually done the league? That is all Spurs have ever been, a cup club. That is what we've been. And we don't even win the cups anymore. That is the problem. And just a quick one there, Badder. Italian football is amazing. However, I like La Liga more. I can't say I've ever got on with La Liga. I mean, I've watched it a lot for the pure fact of Messi being there, Ronaldo being there. And I used to watch it more when I was younger, when the football was a lot more flary. And like you had players like Figo over there, Raul, and all stuff like that. But La Liga's never been the one for me. I've always liked Italian football because I personally think Italian football is the most tactical version of football out there. And again, I know other people don't like that. They want to see tippy-tappy football, or they want to see a bit of this, or just non-stop attack. I do love the Italian style of play. That little bit slower, a lot more tactical. And it's a personal opinion. That's all it is. I mean, Mike, just question you. What do you think about that? Like the Italian football, La Liga, Bundesliga?
Yeah, so
Premier League.
The way I always looked at it, right, is what I like seeing on the pitch is competent managers and competent players making competent decisions. I've always said it, right? I don't mind if you play defensive football as long as you do it properly and with brain, basically, right?
Yeah.
I loved watching us under Conte for that, especially that like second half of his first season when he came, where we were just slapping teams left, right, and center. And we weren't playing like tippy-tappy, possession style football with 30 shots a game and all that stuff, right? But we were so lethal on the counter-attack and we were so well set up that bums like Royale and Doherty were getting on the end of chances and scoring them, right? And I actually enjoyed that, right? I also enjoy watching like gegenpress, right? Proper gegenpress when like watching Klopp's Liverpool. It was amazing watching them, right? And how they were just suffocating teams, and basically you just couldn't, catch a breath playing against them, right? But I also like play like classic Catenaccio, like 10 behind the ball and just shithousing it like with Thunder Mourinho. I also enjoyed that, right? Because what I enjoy on the pitch is winning, right? Of course, I have like a little bit of a preference in terms of like I prefer seeing this formation to that formation, or like this approach to that approach, but I don't mind any style of play, right? And you say that you watch Italian football. I watch German football, right? I watch Bundesliga. And
I watch a little bit of it.
Yeah. What I can tell you about Bundesliga is for like 75% of the games, the Bundesliga is a clusterfuck, right? They don't defend pretty much. They like 75% of the teams play on the halfway line, and it's just attack. We attack you, you attack us, and who is better, right? Basically, what Ange wants to play, right? But when everyone is doing it, it looks fun. Like I have fun watching Bundesliga, right? But it's not the best league in terms of creating teams that can win stuff, other than Bayern and sometimes Borussia and Bayern, right? But other than that, like Frankfurt, who won the Europa League under Glasner, they were an attacking side, but they were much more defensive than the rest of, or like defensively set up compared to the rest of Bundesliga, right? So I really like Bundesliga, right? I actually enjoy some matches more than the Premier League. Premier League, especially this season, hasn't been a great watch, not only because of Spurs, I'm talking about other teams too, right?
It's just looked very incompetent, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you actually been to any places out in Germany, any games out in Germany?
Sorry, come again? Sorry, I didn't.
Have you been to any games in Germany?
No, I haven't, but I'm planning to. I haven't, but I'm planning to. I don't live far away from Leipzig, so I guess this is the destination I would go to first. Because I live closer to Berlin, right? But like Union Berlin is not the greatest team to watch, and Hertha Berlin is in the second tier.
I'll give you
probably,
a hint. No, what I would do if I was you, go to Signal Indiana Park.
Yeah, to Dortmund, right?
Go to Dortmund.
Yeah,
and that's
Dortmund
is over there. Dortmund is basically, obviously, for passion at the stadium and everything. Yeah, it's the same as Liverpool. I mean, even their tune is the same as Liverpool. Yeah. Never walk alone. Yeah, I've been there a couple of times, and the stadium might be getting a little bit old now, but the atmosphere in there is second to none. It's quite a friendly atmosphere around it as well, apart from when they're playing Dortmund. But you're allowed your beer in there and everything. Yeah. When you score, the beer goes flying up in the air, and you get covered with it and everything. And that, go to Borussia Dortmund, mate. The tickets ain't even much. The area's nice as well.
The only thing for me with Dortmund is that I would probably have to fly there because it's like the opposite side of Germany from me.
Oh,
right? So because the reason why I mentioned Leipzig is because it's like a 4.5 to 5 hour drive by car, right? So I can just go, sit in a car, buy a ticket, and just go there by car and come back the same day.
Makes sense.
Whereas like Dortmund for me is a flight over there because driving by car would be like 10 hours probably. Or something like that, right? So, or like 8-9 hours, something like that. So it's not like Leipzig I could do in a one day if I wanted to, or at least like with a one night stay. If I were to go to Dortmund, I would probably like book the whole weekend and do a bit of sightseeing and stuff, right?
If you do that, the little town you could go to close to it, which would be about 45-minute drive or something like that, is a little town there where my cousin moved out to, Oberhausen, and it's basically a smaller town sort of thing. It's no city, but it's very close to everything on a train. You can get here, there, and everywhere with it. It's sort of like an easy one to go to then get on a train, which can go everywhere basically, or the tube and that what they use out there. It's sort of in the middle of things and that. and that would also give you an option of a couple of places to go. I mean, when I went and watched Dortmund play, I watched them play Schalke 04 as well. That's like their Spurs and Arsenal, basically. That's what their relationship is there with them two. They despise each other. It's like Dortmund are basically the Arsenal and Schalke 04 are basically the Spurs. And the arena as well, Bayern Munich, that is a place and a half as well. Yeah. But if you could get there, I would go. I would definitely go to Dortmund. It's an atmosphere there. But going back on the Spurs thing, we got. I mean, someone here just said the HTTR. Yeah, sack him. I totally agree. Can't give him time. Look at Ten Hag. Do you know what? If I knew we'd hang on to him for the next season and we would win a cup again, I would hang on for him to the next season to win a cup again as well.
Yeah. So
some might say that sounds terrible, but it's not exactly like we've got anything to fucking preach about, I suppose, is it? You know?
Yeah, you know, because like let's establish one thing. Both me and you want him sacked today, right?
Yes.
I wouldn't bat an eyelid yesterday, even, right? I wouldn't bat an eyelid if he was sacked. Just, you know, in 30 minutes, I see the Sky Sports headline: Ange Postecoglou sacked. Thank God if that happened, right?
You know what I mean, innit?
Yeah, but what we mean by saying we would kind of have to give him another year is like, let's just imagine you are a boss in a company, right? And you have like a sales guy, right? And he's not meeting his target over and over, and he's doing a really shit job, right? And you give him a bollocking of his life, and next day he gives you like one of the best sales you ever had as a company, and lifts your company up for a year, and you know, and all that stuff. Do you sack him at that point, right? Like, you give him the benefit of a doubt because like he won something, so you kind of have to reward the good thing that he has done, right? And then he can only sack himself after, right? If he keeps performing shit after that one stint, you sack him because you said like, listen, mate, you had that one good stint, right? You did that one good sale, but other than that, your job has been shit, right? So on the whole balance of things, I have to sack you, right? I have to relieve you of your duties or whatever, right? But this is how I look at it, right? Because I also like to look at things like from the club's point of view, not only from like a fan's point of view. And as I said at the beginning, right, if the club sacked him after winning the Europa League, PR, like, it would be a PR disaster for them. Like, the fans would kill them. Kill them, literally. If you think the protests right now are bad, I can't imagine what would happen if they sacked him after winning the Europa League. Because like, that's all we as Spurs fans want. We want trophies. We want to stop being taken piss out of, right? Because like every stream where there are like the top 6 clubs involved, right, I see Spurs fans getting taken piss out of, right? Because we don't win anything, and they always belittle us, and they always treat us like shit, basically, right? Rightfully so, by the way, because this club deserves to be treated that way.
Everything.
Let's be honest about it. Yeah, this club deserves it, right? Because it's not as if something is stopping us from competing other than ourselves, right? We do this to ourselves, so we deserve the shit that we get because of that, right?
We do.
No, not we as fans, but I mean,
no,
we
but
as
I know what you mean when I say
club,
we,
right?
a club. Yeah, no, I totally understand what you mean when I say we. I mean, it's like, big up Lee, how you doing, mate? He's saying no. That's like letting off your partner's killer because he bought you your favourite cake. Well, some wouldn't say no to that either, mate. But you know, some wouldn't say no to that either. I'm one of the ones who'd say no to it personally because I have a very good partner. I also know people who are in, how do I describe this? Platinum handcuffs is the thing I would describe it as. And yeah, if it happens, you know, shit happens, you know, on with the next day. But if he goes and wins that Europa, and if he goes and wins that Europa, you've got to give him the next season, in my opinion. Yes, it has been that bad. I don't deny it, but in its own way, where we're not Chelsea and that, and Man, whoever, all the big clubs that would do that, he would have gone and done for us what nothing has been done in nearly 20 years and 40 years being in Europe as well. I mean, the Europa Cup, up until about 2 years ago, was just a minor anyway. It was like a League Cup. But they've done a very smart thing with that Europa Cup, and that was put the winning place gets into the Champions League.
Yeah.
And that is what's made the Europa Cup that much bigger now. It's given it something at the end of it as such. Whereas, like, take the League Cup, for example, it's like still a meh, who a lot of people except Spurs supporters really don't care. Obviously, Newcastle do because they haven't won it or whatever. But one of the bigger clubs win the League Cup, it's, yeah, get on with it. But that's what they've done with the Europa Cup. And it is now a big cup, and it is a European one. And again, if he goes and does that, we've got... It's only fair in that aspect. Yeah. We've grilled him all the time, and I've seen a lot of people say, well, it would be purely down to the players having a good game. Well, then you can say the games we've lost, it's been purely down to the players having a bad game. We've all said to the toxic positive fans, whatever you want to call them, you can't just chop and change it. Oh, he's an Ange player when we're winning, and he's not Ange's pick when we're losing, sort of thing. It would almost be contradicting ourselves, I think, personally. I mean, it would almost be us contradicting ourselves to an extent.
Kind of. Yeah. Listen, I understand how it looks, right? Because both me and you have grilled this manager over and over again for past half a year, right? So I understand how it looks when now we say we would keep him if he won the Europa League, right? I also have to agree with Box Office what he wrote, right? I think even though let me put it this way, right? For us fans, winning the Europa League would be really great, right? We would have the best day of our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just cheering, partying, getting drunk, bantering Arsenal fans, all that stuff, right? But from the point of view of the club, right, and what it means for its future, right? Yes, we win the trophy. Yes, we elevate ourselves in terms of the status, right? But I think that next season with Ange playing 2 games a week in the Champions League would absolutely murder us, right? I think if you think performances like this season are bad, then the next season would probably be even worse, right? Mm-hmm. Which also kind of backs my point of I think he would just sack himself by performing really badly, right? But I'm not sure whether the benefit for the club would be that great, other than money. I don't know how to bet, because yes, you get the money for Champions League, yes, you get the glory because you won the trophy, but the season, I don't think the club would prepare for the season in the Champions League, right? Because this club never does, right? We would probably sign 1 senior player and 4 youngsters again and be bewildered why we are getting slapped up in the Champions League group stage, right? Or the league phase. So I'm not sure if winning Europa right now helps us get better in the long term, right? If you get my drift.
No, I get exactly what you're saying. It's just, I think what we're saying is just it would almost be moral as such. Not that I've got many of them, but I'm the first one to say you grill him when you grill him, but he's sort of half done his job, hasn't he? If we win that Europa Cup, he's done half his job in that aspect just by winning or something. And it does show how sad it really is at Spurs. Like Jimmy Hotspur says, why are so many Spurs fans willing to accept mediocrity with we are 14th current? I get exactly what he's saying. And do I want that next season? No, I don't. But would I take that next season to win the Europa? Yes, I would. I would. Dave, how are we doing, mate? You all right?
You all right, Dan? You all right, Michael? Yeah, I'm okay. A little bit sore.
What's that, the boxing?
Yeah, I took an uppercut to the ribs in the week, and I'm feeling sorry for myself.
Right, so with what I've put on here, the Europa Cup, no, I don't think we're going to do it. It's highly unlikely, but nothing is impossible in that aspect, and nobody can tell me for a fact that we're not going to win it. 99% sure we won't. But Dave, if we actually go and win that Europa Cup, big if. What the fuck do we do with Ange?
Well, I'm of the train of thought that I personally still want to get rid of him. I'd get rid of him now if I could. Obviously, I understand that's not going to happen. And if I look back at the history of Daniel Levy and what he does, he sacked Mourinho on the eve of the League Cup final. He sacked one day Ramos not too long after winning the League Cup. So I don't think it's
8 games after, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I know he had a poor start in the league. Obviously, that's just before Harry Redknapp came in. But I think historically, we're a club that will sack a manager, even if he has been recently successful. I know there's the desire in the club not to act so quick again. We've discussed this in the past, that they want to try and stick through a manager. But I think it's becoming untenable with Ange now, because I think he's also lost the personality aspect. I mean, results, he's 14th in the league. That's enough to sack him. Okay, we went out in the Cups, Villa away. You know, there's no disgrace going out Villa away on paper, but obviously the performance on the day was crap. And then we limped out of, obviously, the League Cup in the end, but we went far in the competition. And obviously, we're still in the Europa League. So Cup-wise, you can argue that actually Cup-wise, we've done okay this season up to this point. But in the league, it's been absolutely terrible. And that's a sacking offence on its own. But putting the football aside, what Ange has also lost, which I found over the last few months, is the personality side of things. I don't think there's much to cling on to in terms of, do you know what, I like this person. I want him to succeed. I think he's lost all credibility with the way he's gone after the fans. And obviously that video the other day,
favours.
No, exactly. I saw the video the other day of Fulham, and I was expecting like the fans to be like personal and really out of order, hitting, you know, saying stuff that's beyond football. But all the fans were doing were questioning what is going on. They didn't even swear, Dan, and he's kicking off over it. I think he's lost the plot in that aspect. And as I say, the personality, I think the real Ange is showing. So earlier on in the season when we're doing bad and you heard people saying, I want to back this manager, I could kind of understand it because he was kind of a bit of a jokey, a bit different character to most managers. He was quite enjoyable in some press conferences. That seems to have gone now. So I think results-wise from the football pitch, he's deserved sacking. And I think even from a personal level, I don't want this man in charge of my club anymore. The point that I very, very rarely get up to watch us anymore. Like I just watch the highlights because there's just no point wasting my day or evening watching this club when the players clearly pick and choose when they want to play. So I think the players have actually given up on Ange to a certain extent. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on it. But I will finish on a positive. We are undefeated in 5 days of planet Earth. So, you know, positive.
Yeah, and Mark Taylor's been a member for 3 months. Much appreciated, mate. Let's be honest, he's a bloody awful manager. Look, I know that as well. And if we could win it and then sack him still, I can't say I'd care. I'd be quite happy to see the back of him. And I agree with everything you said, Dave. But then there's also that other side of me that just says if he goes and won it, he's managed to achieve what no one else has done at Spurs for God knows how long. And I think the main thing I'm putting to it is it's more of having a laugh with it in its own way. Of the question is, we all know the football just would not improve, and we'd probably finish about 10th if we were lucky. It's just, would you really be willing to put up with that to win the Europa Cup? So, ideally for me, I'd love to sack him. I'd love to win the Europa Cup, sack him, get a new manager in. But there is also that moral side of me, which you know there isn't many, that does say he gets another season, basically. I mean, for me, it's another 6 months, and then we'd drop him because we wouldn't be getting no better. But the main question I'm asking is, take it a bit of a option sort of thing. To win the Europa Cup, we have to keep him another season after, or we lose the Europa Cup, lost everything, he's gone. What one would you take?
Well, if we won the Europa League and he got another season, that takes us up to the end of Pochettino's contract with the USA. So actually, timing-wise, longer term, that could work for us. We just have to grin and bear another crap season. But hey, we've done that for the last 20, 30 years. What's another season of crap mediocrity? So, yeah, I would still take the trophy. I would never turn down a trophy. You know, my personal dislike of person in charge of my club isn't going to overrule my desire to win a trophy. I would take a trophy and have Joseph Fritzl in charge. If
you know, it's like we know he's not going to win it. Well, 99% sure he's not going to win it. I mean, Alex, what you're saying here, ask Man United fans, would they have kept Ten Hag? No, they wouldn't, but we ain't Man United. and
also, right, we are talking about Europa League, not Carabao Cup, right? I know he won FA Cup in the second season, right? But as you said, the difference in level between clubs is one thing, but also the difference in the trophy like status is a different thing, right? If you were talking about the Carabao or the FA Cup, I wouldn't be having this energy, right? I would want him sacked, like, because like for me, winning a Carabao Cup and finishing 14th, yes, it's a trophy. Like, again, I have to say, from the club's point of view, even if he won the Carabao Cup, they couldn't sack him. Again, a PR absolute, like, you know, shot in the head, right?
You could do it easier on the League Cup than you could the Europa
Yeah, you can do it easier, right? But with the Europa League, you kind of can't sack him, right? Because it's a European trophy. I would want him sacked, but you kind of can't sack him, right?
There's also that other side of you where you're just being fair to an extent.
Yeah,
it's almost making you cringe. It's almost making you cringe doing it at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah. The only problem I would have with this, right? Listen, over the past few months, right? Reading Spurs social media, Twitter, Reddit, whichever you choose, right? And reading Ange inners and the lengths they've gone to defend this manager, right? If he won the Europa League, I don't think I would like to use internet for another year, right? Maybe meeting with you guys, but that's it, right? Because reading social media after he won the Europa League, I would rather bleach my eyes, right? And you know, put a nail in my ear, right? That's what I would like to do if we won the Europa League, if I had to read Reddit or Twitter or other spaces, right? Even now I'm seeing like, you Ange to shut the fuck up. It's part of the painful rebuild, right? Poch said about the painful rebuild. We are going through it right now and you are moaning, right? Yeah, but Poch was probably like, by painful rebuild, Poch probably meant like a sore back and a bit of a runny nose, not getting butt fucked, right?
Yeah,
which is what we
not
are going
getting
through right
shafted
now.
all the time.
Yeah, not getting shafted, right? Because that's what we are going through right now. It's not pain, it's misery. Like,
you know,
I don't think you need to drop back to 14th to have a painful rebuild, right?
Yeah,
and
I
lose
agree.
15 matches in the league. That's not the drop off which we
every time you watch Spurs
to do.
Every time you watch Spurs, you're walking away like John Wayne sort of thing, isn't it? It's like you've been totally done.
That's a great point, Michael. It's like we're all big enough and wise enough to understand there will be ups and downs with a rebuild, particularly with a young squad. We're not expecting us to go out and win every game, but 14th is beyond, you know, taking that into account, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, performances have been poor for a long, long time now. And for me, just to finish on my point about Ange, is the other thing I really dislike about him now is that it's the unwillingness to adapt. I think there's some good elements of his tactics going forward. I don't think we're as attacking as some people make out.
I don't even think we are attacking.
No, but we do score a lot of goals. We're effective in a way because we score a lot of goals. The proof is in the pudding on the stats for that. But his unwillingness to adapt, because I don't think he was a million miles away from having a good tactic had he just tweaked a few things. We've gone through this in previous shows, Dan. But it's the fact that he hasn't even tried tweaking that much. He's just carried on. And that, for me, is a sign that a manager is not good enough in the long run, because every single successful manager over the history of football has adapted.
Yeah.
You adapt to
certain games as such. Like when you know they've got that much of a good left or right winger, you double up on him and stuff like that. You make your little tweaks for a game. You don't have to change a whole bloody system. I mean, what I'd be asking him to do is change a bit of the system, and that's not use those bloody inverted wing backs. And if we want to use the wing backs that much, then you have to have a DM now. And literally every good team that has won a league has had a solid defensive midfielder. I mean, just on what Phil Coyes has said here, I think this is actually a good point. If Ange wins the Europa and leaves on his own accord, which I don't see happening. There's too much money for him to lose here. But if he did, does that put even more pressure on the next manager to follow from that? I think that's actually quite a solid question.
It's a bit tough, right? Because the next manager, and let's hope and pray we actually have a new manager next season, right? He kind of has to do better in the league because we are 14th, right? So
it's a bit hard not to do better.
Yeah, it's a bit hard
getting relegated.
Yeah.
If we didn't have those bottom 3 teams that were that bad, we would be relegation this year.
Yeah, there were seasons where at this point of a season after 20, I think it's 29 game weeks, right? There were teams at like 30 points that were at bottom of the league, and we are on 34 right now, right? So we would be entangled in that relegation race, right? But yeah, coming back, right? The next manager kind of has to do better in the league. But the thing about the cups is, right, I don't think we are a cup team right now. I don't think we are a team capable of winning cups. So I think a good chunk of this fan base, a good chunk of this fan base would understand that if he won the Europa League and just left, right, a big chunk of this fan base would understand we kind of fluked it rather than deserved because we were the best.
I agree.
You get my point,
I
right?
agree. But that's what I said. You can win a cup through a bit of luck. You can actually do it over 6-7 games with that. Whereas the league,
not all of them, right? Not all of the fan base. There would be parts of the fan base deserve, like requiring the next manager to do the same thing, right? Because if you taste that glory once, you want it more and more and more, right? But I think the reasonable part of the fan base, not to like be disingenuous towards the rest of the fan base, right? But I think the reasonable part of fan base would understand it was a bit of a fluke, and we still have to rise up, right? So it's kind of tough. Like, also, I was thinking about what you guys said about if he got the next season, and we, the end of next season is the end of Poch's contract at USA men's national team, right? I kind of wouldn't mind if all of the shit fell on Ange, right? With the painful rebuild, he left, and then the next manager, more competent manager, came in and actually used what the clear out that he did and bring us up, right? Because I actually think I've always, like I said, that I think the club has done good in terms of offloading shit players. I still think there is a bit of a job to do, but if I compare our squad from like 2 or 3 seasons ago to what it is now, I am happier with the squad, right? I actually think we are better than we were 2 or 3 seasons ago, purely like on paper, squad-wise, right? There is still a bit of a job to do, but I think if you just like sell 4 or 5 players, and if this club had any brain, would bring in another 4 or 5 good players, I think the squad is really good, right? So in a bit of a like twisted sense, I wouldn't mind if the shit that comes with replacing those pieces left that we need to be replaced and bending in new players fell on Ange. He took the criticism and the shit, left, and then the new guy comes into a healthy squad that can actually be developed and reach
can
new
go
heights,
forward
right?
as such.
Yeah. I know it's a bit twisted, but
no, I understand what you're saying. I totally understand it. David Clark, just to put you straight on something, mate. Please don't dish the Carabao Cup. I wouldn't dish it anyway, mate. I think the phrase you're looking for is diss, but either way. Pep didn't disrespect that trophy, winning it 4 years running, yet you Spurs fans take the piss out of the trophy as if it's a joke. It's not the trophy that's the joke. I didn't take the piss out of it or nothing. I just said that to the big teams, winning the League Cup compared to the FA Cup and the league basically is like, yeah, if we win it, we win it. If we don't, we don't. Whereas at Spurs, I have been one of the first ones to sit here, along with a lot of others that come on my channel and channels I go on, was desperate to win the cup, and I've sat here and I've said basically for the whole thing that I'd keep this fucking crap manager just to win a cup. Yeah, okay, Europa bigger than League Cup. League Cup is probably one of the smallest cups out there, but at Spurs, what right do we have to diss any cup when we have won nothing? And that is what I've been saying basically the whole time. So if you're going to make a statement on there, perfectly fine with your opinion, mate, but at least get it right, for fuck's sake.
I think David maybe misunderstood you when you said for big clubs the Carabao Cup is you win it and you go. We are not a big club in that essence, right? We are big only financially. I don't think
we are a big business club.
Yeah, big business club. But I don't think you meant to include us in that statement. Like you meant like United, Arsenal, and others, right?
Exactly.
Whereas, like when we were in the Conference League, right?
Every cup's a cup. Yeah, I get that.
When we were in the Conference League, I was the one like dying on the hill of take this competition seriously and actually go and win it, right? I don't care if it's a third tier European competition. I don't care. We are Spurs fans. We are Tottenham. We haven't won anything for 17 years. We need to win something, and you have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Because some people have this twisted view of, oh, we have to win something, so it has to be the league or it has to be the Champions League. You don't go from winning nothing to winning the Champions League unless you are an absolute, like, you know, everything just clicks for you, no injuries, like players have breakout years and all that
like
stuff.
Poch got us to the final. Yeah. That was a bit of lucky.
But even that team, you could make a case that we were challenging for a league 2 or 3 seasons, even if you want to be generous, right? Or 2 seasons in my opinion.
That season was where we was going downhill.
Yeah. But this team still like reached the heights, right? So us getting to a Champions League final wasn't as big of a like if that Ajax that we eliminated in the semi-final got to a final, that would have been a massive shock, right? Because it's Ajax. It's like, I know they had history,
a very
right?
good team. They had some very good
they had a weaker
team, but they were still adapting.
Yeah,
they were still getting older, should I say?
Yeah, that was the breakout season for most of those players, right? So nobody expected Ajax to be there. Whereas if you looked at our team, we had like prime Kane, prime Son, we had Eriksen, we had a couple of other players that were actually at that close to world-class level, you could argue. So
they
it
was
wasn't
at their
as
peak,
big of a surprise, right?
Quite a few of them.
So we rose like that, right? Like if this team were to win the league next season, right, it would be the biggest fucking shock out there, right? Because nobody expects this team to do anything, right? But if Bergwall has like an amazing season, scores 20 goals, right, and then Odegaard finds his shooting boots and scores 20, right? And Richarlison becomes the greatest striker out there. Like, you get my point. The miracle would have to happen for us to win the league. So for me, you have to take baby steps from where we are right now. We don't win the league or the Champions League from this point, but winning the Carabao Cup or Conference League would be a big step forwards. You have to climb the ladder, is what I mean, right?
No, I totally agree with that. And again, like you're saying here, Spurs fans make me laugh. They still have the arrogance to think of the Carabao Cup and FA Cup and the Europa are a joke. As if Spurs are chasing the Champions League every season is laughable. Well, it obviously shows, fella, that you just have not been watching this channel from the start, doesn't it? You've come in and made comments like that, where it's, if you rewind, let's say an hour and 15 minutes, I haven't been dissing the Europa Cup once. I've been saying that I'm willing to keep this dog shit manager for another season if we win the fucking Europa Cup. So seriously, mate, check up what you've said before. Check up what you're writing before, check up before you write it, because you've just made yourself look like a bit of a dickhead in that aspect. Now, I'm not saying I think but you have really made yourself.
I think his next comments explains it a bit, right? Because he said that, I meant Spurs fans in general, not you personally. It's Spurs fans' laughable attitude that they think they are above such trophies. I've listened to every Spurs podcasters, and that's their opinion. The big club is a club that has the ability to win trophies every year, but not just the ability to do so, but are actually winning trophies unlike us. So, like, I think David kind of meant like the overall fan base, But from our perspective, David, when you came in and said that you guys disrespect, I know you now. I know you meant like the fan base as a whole.
Okay,
right.
I apologise on the statement I made towards you there, but if you do check it out from day, I have been saying this whole time I would take any cup, even if we won the League Cup. I'd say give him another 10 weeks. But okay, I apologise for what I said there, and I do actually agree with what you've now said. Because there is still a lot of Spurs people out there who do say, what is the League Cup? It's a minor. So on that aspect, what you've put there, I'll agree with it. But you were making it sound like I've been doing it through the whole show. And trust me, I haven't. And I haven't done it for a long time. Take me back 6 or 7 years. I was one of the ones who would sit here and preach about, I don't give a toss about the cups. I want to get in the Champions League. I couldn't give a shit about the Champions League. Now I just want to see Spurs bloody win something. I mean, as a big club, we are not a big club. We are probably the most underachieving club on the face of this planet, as far as I'm concerned. For the size of us business-wise and the size of the actual support and that, I'd say Tottenham are the most underachieving club on the planet. I mean, Dave, can you think of a more underachieving team than Spurs?
I don't know, because Aston Villa have won a European Cup, like what is now the Champions League. But I just saw the days since we last won a trophy, and they were behind us on that. And Aston Villa historically are a massive club, arguably with a bigger history than Tottenham as well, especially in the last 40, 50 years, maybe not over the 120, 130 years, but yeah. I mean, it's a tough one to argue against, isn't it? I mean, the size of our club, the fan base, the fact that we've been in the top league since the 70s and not won it. Yeah, I think that's the big one for me, the lack of league title in so many years or so many decades. We obviously did win cups all the way up to the 90s. I know we won, obviously, the Worthington Cup, the League Cup in the 2008 season. Not the Worthington then, was it? Was it the Worthington in 2008 when Woodgate scored? I can't remember, but it's the League Cup. It's just a sponsorship, isn't it? It's the League Cup.
Wasn't it Carling? Carling Cup?
I think it was the Carling Cup.
I think it was the Carling Cup. I mean, when he gets
Worthington
named like
Cup
the
was
Worthington Cup.
99, Alan Nilsson, when he scored against Leicester.
I mean, it's like Archer is saying here, I personally take any trophy seriously, considering we haven't won a trophy in 17 years, apart from the pre-season tournaments. Mate, I totally agree with you. This is basically what I'm saying, the whole thing. The main thing I've done the show on is what do we do with Ange? I know it's all ifs, buts and maybes. If we were this big club, whatever, and that, it would be, even if we won the Europa, we'd still sack him because of how poor he's done in the league. My one is just more of just putting that point on people of, would you take this for this? Maybe I've put it wrong at the start or whatever else. I'm just sort of giving people an option of, would you give up next season basically to win the Europa Cup? And then there's that also that other side of morally. Again, like I said, I don't have many of them in that aspect when it comes to feelings, but for me, I still say he would have deserved to keep his place at the club, basically, for winning that Europa Cup. It contradicts a lot of things, I know, and it's a hard thing to admit, but I did say at the start of this season, do you know what, bollocks, I'm that desperate for a trophy. If we finish 15th and he wins us even the bloody League Cup, I'll be happy. I mean, Dave, like I was saying to Mike earlier, can you imagine that if we go and finish 15th, win the Europa Cup, get in the Champions League, and Arsenal finish second or third and get in the Champions League, who's actually had the better season?
I think we've probably salvaged the better season, even though for 99% of the season they've had a better season. I think if that was the end scenario where they didn't improve on what they've done in the last 2 or 3 years, and we somehow scraped a European trophy, which obviously Arsenal haven't won for donkeys, and still end up with the same qualification, i.e. both in the Champions League, I think you'd have to argue that we would technically have had the best season out of nowhere. That would be like Man United winning against Bayern Munich in the Champions League final, 1-0 down, injury time, and end up winning it with 2 goals. I think that's the kind of turnaround that would be. Or Steven Bergwijn against Leicester, when we scored them 2 last-minute goals. Yeah, I think you technically would. I mean, ultimately, I always say, what's the difference between finishing second and sort of 16th, 17th? You both not won the league, have you? And that's ultimately what you're in there to do. Obviously, the European qualification changes that argument slightly. So, yeah, if you've both qualified for the Champions League, it doesn't really matter where you finished in the league. And if we've got a trophy on top, then, yeah, why wouldn't we have had a better season out of nowhere?
Exactly. Like Man U did to them. And just to say to Dave Clark, no problem, mate. I obviously didn't explain myself properly. No, like I say, take back what I said with what I said, and that we totally understand what you was getting at now. It's just sometimes, like Mr. Box Office says here, it's better to go on stream because that's why the chat is hard. The chat can be a pain in the arse at times because you can miss. There's only so much you can put. And to tell you what, Phil, if you ever do want to come on and say your bit, put it on the side and I'll quite happily send you out the link. But Man U was, a lot of Man U fans was digging at Arsenal and the fact that even though they've done worse in the league than that, they'd still done better because they had silverware. Now, Dave, I agree with you. Like, obviously, we want to finish as high as we can in the league, but this is why I say the league is done and we focus more on the Europa because I really don't see much difference between finishing 10th and 16th. A few £1 million, yeah. Okay, people could say pride. Pride at Spurs, really. But people could say players playing for pride. But I can't dig what Ange done with making 7 changes that he really didn't have to make with a 19 or 24, 19. I think it's 19 till our next league game and then 24. I can't remember what the numbers are. But Dave, what would you do? And Mike, how do you feel about the league? Is that done and dusted? And should we just concentrate on the Europa? But what I mean by concentrate on the Europa is if it's a Sunday that we've got a game and then we've got the Europa on the Thursday, do you go and leave 2, 3, 4, 5 even of your best players out, know it to make sure that they're pretty much fit for the Europa game? Or do you go for that game the same way you'd go for the Europa game and just put your best team out there? A bit of rotation it is to me. And that's something we've complained about that Ange hasn't done.
Yeah, well, we're not good enough to pick and choose what our strong team is. We showed that against Fulham. I think we had 8 days rest and go and put in a performance like that. So I don't think we can be clever enough to do that because we're not good enough to do that. But let's take the Spursy out of the equation, and we've got Chelsea, and then a week later is the Frankfurt, and then in between you got Southampton. So what a sensible approach would be to do is, you put your best 11 that you possibly can against Chelsea. You rest a couple against Southampton, 1 or 2, and the 1 or 2 being the high injury risk ones. So the Mickey van der Ven's. Yeah. So 1 or 2, but you don't sit there and make wholesale changes because our squad is not that good. I don't even think our first 11's that good, but let alone our squad. But you just make 1 or 2 sensible rotations just to sit there and give some legs, a rest. So the Mickey van der Ven's of the world. And then you obviously go for the Frankfurt game. Obviously, the Europa League's our chance of trophies. So if you had to pick one, you're going to go for that. But I'm of the school of thought that winning creates a winning habit. So you sit there and go out and try and win every single game. And the players need to be professional that every single game counts when they're putting this shirt on. So I don't think there is a case of, the league doesn't matter. Yes, every single game matters. When you go out there and represent this club, you go out there and try your best to win. And you try your best to perform. There is no picking and choosing games of football. We have 50 games a season. You've got to try and win every single one of them. We appreciate that's not going to happen, but that should be your mentality. And until we get that mentality in this club, we're never going to win anything, by the way. You think of the Mourinhos of the world, the Alex Fergusons of the world, the clubs they've created, the teams they've created. They've got winning mentality running through it. I think
Pep always took the League Cup seriously.
Yeah, and I think this is just a little minor defence of Ange. I think that's what he was trying to get at when Spurs played Man City at the end of last season, when a lot of Spurs fans, myself included, were like, I want Man City to smash us so Arsenal don't win. And I think, just in his defence, I think that's what he was getting at. The mentality of the club shouldn't be about what other teams do. It should be that we're going out there to try and win every game of football. And I kind of agree with that.
itch. No, I do get it. I mean, it's like you say, like I say, it's the way people phrase a lot of things, and I haven't got the best way with words. You know that, Dave. I never bloody did. And for me, the season is done. But when I mean the season is done, it's done. We're not going to get anything out of it, basically. Yes, I still think we should try to win every game, but I do think the season is done and dusted. Whether we finish 12th, which is probably the best we can do, or 10th is probably the best we can do if a significant amount of teams lose. But I'd say 12th is reality, the best we can do. If we finish 12th or 16th, what's the fucking difference? Basically, to me, that is how done the season is. But I still agree on trying to win every game. But just because I think the season's done, it doesn't mean that I don't think we should try and win every game. It's just when it comes to playing, say, Southampton, I mean, with Chelsea, we might as well just give them 3 points and have a day off. But realistically, you obviously go for the win. And with Southampton, and then say having Eintracht Frankfurt 4 days later, I would probably rest about 4 players. My main 4 players that I would want in that team. Yes, okay, I know anything can happen. You can walk down the stairs and break your fucking ankle. But my point is, I would rather... I mean, it's what we've been saying he hasn't been doing, rotation. Part of the problems we wouldn't have if he had rotated as well. But I would personally focus on that Europa Cup in the aspect of, in a league game 4 days before, I would leave 3 or 4 players out for the Europa Cup. It's not that I'm saying I don't want to win my games in the league. It's just I think the Europa one is more important, basically. I mean, Mike, what do you think about the whole thing?
Yeah, so for me, I echo what you guys said about the league. I don't think there is anything in the league left other than pride. Like, let's be honest about it, right? As you said, there is no difference other than like a couple £1 million between finishing 12th and 16th, right? But I would rather not see my club behind West Ham and Everton, right? I know we've been shit this season, but I don't think we've been that shit to be behind West Ham, Everton, United, and other like clusterfuck clubs.
Considering
right?
how far Everton were behind us as well.
Yeah, so I still think you should go out there and with a tactic and a setup to try to win the as many games as you can, right? But for me, the Europa League takes absolute priority. If you have to rest a player, rest a player. If you have to drop a player, drop a player. You just put full priority on that Europa League. And the way I look at it is Chelsea, I would play a strong team. Also, what you have to take into consideration is that you cannot rest Van de Ven and Romero all the time. They have to get into the habits of the game. They have to get that like game fitness, right? Other than like the physical fitness, they also have to be sharp, like up here, right? When they play the game. So you have to give them some game time, right?
Yeah.
But that Southampton game, for example, for me is a good thing to just give them a runabout for 45 minutes, right? And just take them off, because I personally think that Southampton are that bad that we can defeat them even with not a second string team, but a bit of a rotated team. That being said, we also lost to Leicester and Ipswich at home, and I had the same thoughts about them. So there is that context to take into consideration. But back on the main topic, I think the Frankfurt games take absolute priority. You do everything you can to field the strongest team, the most fit team you can in those games, right? It's just, as I said, absolute priority. You don't F about with that game. You just play Van de Ven, Romero, and play them for a full 90. Not do because I bet you Ange will rest Maddison, right, against Southampton, and then play
I
him
don't
for
think it's
60.
rest.
Yeah. And then
just
play
like
him, or don't like him and drop him, right? But the logical thing for me would be, okay, if you don't want to play Maddison against Southampton, so be it, right? But then play him for a full 90 against Frankfurt, not drop him after 60 minutes, right? What's the point then? Play Maddison against Southampton then if you don't rate him and if you don't want to use him for more than 60 minutes. I still think he's one of the best players, and even if they don't like each other, I expect, I think there is bigger chance of Maddison doing magic in the Europa League other than other guys that we can put in that position, right? So yeah, for me, against Frankfurt, it has to be like Spence, Porro, Van de Ven, Romero, Madison, Son, Solanke. I'm not sure about the midfield. I wanted to go with like Bentancur and Bissouma, but I'm not sure if they are better than Papesar and Bergvall at this point. So I'm not sure what we do with the midfield, but yeah, other positions.
Yeah, and I mean we're going to finish 40 points for the season. That's completely unacceptable. I agree. What Dave says here is if a club with a nearly all-fit squad has to prioritise one game over another, then it shows weakness in the squad in the first place. You know, I'm going to half disagree with that because I've seen big teams like when Man U were massive. When they was a good club as such. I've seen Chelsea do it. I've seen Real Madrid do it. I've seen Inter do it. I've seen a lot of other teams that when they've got a quarter final of the Champions League in 4 or 5 days' time, that they do actually rest a couple of their best players. Obviously not 7, but to me, I think what people are misunderstanding here is what I would call it if you left out, say, 4 players for that Southampton game, knowing we've got the Europa next in 4 days. To me, that's rotation. And that is what people have been complaining, me being one of them, that Ange hasn't done all season and got us into that predicament where several players were just, at least 3 players were totally burnt out. And obviously it was down to the way we play. And people was complaining that we were using no rotation. So if we go and then leave 3-4 players out because we got a very important next game, isn't that just rotation?
Yeah. Yes.
It is, isn't it? And that's what I'm not getting about it. Maybe it's just the way I put it on everything. I mean, to me, then that is actual rotation. That is what we've been complaining about. He hasn't done. So that is what he would be doing. It's just, I mean, what do you think on that, Dave, in that aspect? Like, that would just be rotation, wouldn't it? What he hasn't been doing.
Yeah, in short. Yeah, he hasn't been doing it, no. And but when he's had the chance in the last few games to do it, it's not actually worked, has it? Which is again, one of the frustrating things about this club.
And we pretty much know it won't work either. And we're pretty sure we won't win that league anyway. And by
the way, I'm mildly confident we'll actually get through Frankfurt over 2 legs. I know a lot of people are saying no, but I'm actually weirdly confident because nothing makes sense with this club. So if it looks like Frankfurt are the favourites, and I can understand that argument because they had a better season than we have, then actually there's a better chance we might do it. I'd be more concerned if we was going into this tie heavy favourites that would probably throw it away. And I think
we were one of the favourites to win it, weren't we?
Yeah, I get that, but those odds have been diminishing with the bookies. I think we were the favourites very early on in the Europa League, wasn't we? And as the tournament's gone on, they've seen us play and gone, actually, probably not the favourites. We'll give you some more odds. But, I don't think it's a million miles away that we could win. I understand that we're probably not the favourites over the 2 legs to win. I get that. But actually, I think the tie is a lot closer than some people have been saying. And all we need is probably one decent game out of the 2, a not so bad game in the second. We'll get the better of these because we can score goals. It's just whether we can be defensive.
So can they. They are.
Yeah, I know they can.
Good goal scoring wise. Defensive, they seem a little bit weaker.
I mean, they got a good result against Ajax on paper, but Ajax have been very poor this season. They were in the relegation.
They haven't been great for a while, have they, Ajax?
No. This season they've picked it up second half of the season, but in the first half of the season they were bottom of the table. Which when you say that, Ajax bottom of the table, that's how bad they were playing.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sound right, does it?
No, they turned it around now, but they still weren't the Ajax that, say, a few years ago when we met them. And again, you only have to look at that Champions League run to the final, right? That was probably one of the poorest seasons with Poch in terms of how we were playing because we had a lot of injuries and we were struggling a lot of the games. We had to change our style a bit. We had Llorente up front. And if you remember rightly, that Champions League draw, we lost the first couple of games in the group stage. We were going out of the tournament until we got a late goal against Barcelona. We were going out of the tournament against Man City. We scraped through that. somehow. We was going out the tournament
skin of our teeth, that one, wasn't it?
We're going out the tournament against Ajax. We scraped through that. Like all of these minor possibilities, we should have gone out several times in that tournament, but we just about scraped through and scraped through and scraped through. Anything can happen in cup football. So I'm actually mildly confident we'll do well. And I would not be surprised if we go on and make the final in the Europa League. We'll probably bottle it if we got to the final. Sorry, I can't be totally positive. I just think we've got a chance. I'm not putting us out of it. I think we've got a good chance. I think it's 50-50. And to me, those are good odds. Let's see how we go.
Okay, so right, just before I end it, then final question, final thing, just so we get this straight. If we had to keep Ange for next season to win the Europa Cup, would you do that, Dave? Yes or no?
Yes.
And Mike?
About keeping him, right?
If we had to keep Ange for the next season to win the Europa Cup, would you do it? Or lose the Europa Cup to get rid of Ange?
Yeah, I would keep him.
And I would do it as well. And as Tottenham, I don't really think we have the right, basically, to turn round and basically say no to anything like that. But right, that's me done, people. Hope everyone has a good day. I'll probably see most of you in about 10 minutes anyway on Sabbath show when he turns it on, or if he when he does. So I've got the direct on here, not that he bloody needs it, but I put the direct on there so you can tell him HotspurHood raid. It would just be more of a joke than anything. But if everyone gives us a quick like and subscribe, it'd be much appreciated. Dave, Mike, I'm sure we'll catch you again both soon, and thanks for coming on. Take care, everyone. Have a good day.
I'ma turn it up and then I'm gonna take it down. Give it to me like